Greetings and welcome to PinballHelp. Mike here. This is one of the many episodes of Mike Didn't Take His Own Advice. I've done this so many times where I've done a video on something and then I forgot the whole process, came back and missed a little step that I forgot to do. This is another example. This is work on this WPC driver board from World Cup Soccer. We were working on bulletproofing the game because it was resetting. I had replaced the caps. Put it in the game. It worked fine for a little while. Then I started working on the underside of the playfield to work on the goalie. When I fixed the goalie, which is in another video, I came back and turned the machine on and it wouldn't boot up. Turns out the 5-volt line dropped out on the thing. So I thought, okay, maybe I should have replaced the bridge rectifiers when I did the caps, and I didn't do that. So I went back and I went ahead and replaced the bridge rectifiers, put it back in the game, still wouldn't work. At least I was smart enough to not think that it was something on the underside of the playfield that caused the game to no longer boot up. It was pretty obvious the 5-volt line was out because the LED was not on. So still, what's the problem? Well, research indicates the next line in the chain is a voltage regulator here or this chip over here. This voltage regulator is, you can't really get it anymore. There's a replacement for the LM323K, which is called the PSU5, which is a nice thing to update if you need it because it doesn't generate heat like this one, so you can replace this whole assembly with a little circuit board in here. So I went ahead and ordered some of those, and I was going to wait until that came in before I actually pulled the board out and started working on it again. And then I thought to myself, no, Occam's razor's got to apply here. This has got to be something obvious that I stupidly forgot. So what's the most common thing when you do these kind of things on the board? You blow the fucking traces between the caps and the top and the bottom. Now, I was so careful because this has happened to me in the past. You know, there's a whole guide of recommended jumpers that you can put on these boards. Here's an example of one that I just printed today on my crappy printer. But there's some through holes in some of these components from the top and the bottom of the board, and if you blow those traces or you don't get the solder on the top part of the board from underneath, it won't carry the circuit through. So I'm going to show you, this is one of the most common things that goes wrong. Okay, so AC comes into bridge rectifier 2, gets rectified into DC, and then it goes into, this is the 5-volt portion of the thing. It goes into capacitor C5 here, 15K, and then from here it goes to the voltage regulator, and then it goes to the rest of the thing. So if your 5 volts are out, it's usually something in this train here. If the 5 volts are on and you're still getting resets, it's usually a connector problem. I think we've solved all that now, but I've updated the system, put these new caps in here, and we still have some problems. So here's what I should have checked the first time I did this. And actually, I did check it when I originally put these caps in. The game worked. I put it back in. It booted fine. Then, like 3 weeks later, it went out. What the hell happened? Well, I didn't assume it was a problem with the caps and the through holes because I had replaced them and the game worked for several weeks, right? So if and I didn't take the board out and bang it around, so it wouldn't go wrong all of a sudden, would it? Let's see. So what we need to do here is we want to check the connection, because if this capacitor right here is where there's a connection from the underside circuit tracings to the top side. And if you're soldering this capacitor on and the solder doesn't go through the board to the top, you can blow that connection. Even if you don't blow the through hole, you cannot make that connection. This is one of the reasons why there's a recommended jumper that you do between bridge rectifier 2 and capacitor C5. So let's check it. Let's check just in case, because we know now with the capacitor in place what's supposed to work. So let's, okay, let me get this thing working. Okay, continuity tester. So this is the negative part of the voltage, the bridge rectifier. It's supposed to connect to here. Okay, so that is right. Now you'll notice there's not a trace from the top to over here, because this is the top part of the board. The trace is from here to here. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. Okay. So this is the bridge rectifier that converts the AC into DC. And so this is our AC line coming in on these two big wires right here. So this is the AC, and then this is the positive DC, and this is the negative DC right here. So there's a trace from this point on the top part of the board to these 2 points over here. So if, when you solder this capacitor on, the solder doesn't go all the way down and connect with the top part and make a good connection, it's not gonna work. So we can see it's there. Now let's take the positive, and look at that. It's not there. This is where our problem. This is why the game's not booting, because the top trace from here to here is off. Now it could be on the top part over here, or it could be the top part over here. Just to make sure that everything is okay, I am going to run a jumper from here to here on the underside of the board, and absolutely make sure that these things are connected. And even if you do have it right, you should always do this. You should always run these two jumpers from here and from there to there. Don't rely on perfect soldering thing, because this is a great example of, I replaced it. I replaced the cap, checked it out, it worked fine. I put it in the machine, and it worked. It worked for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then blip, it stopped working. So there was probably just a tiny bead of solder that fell through on the bottom. But since it's on the underside of a capacitor, you can't see it. You can't tell if the trace is there. So I am now moving this into an absolute mandatory thing you have to do. When you replace these caps, put these jumpers on the bottom. Any trace that's on the top side of one of these capacitors, you should make a jumper on the bottom of the board, because you can't see if it goes all the way through. You don't know you don't know how good a connection you got, and you don't want to hold heat on here too much, or you could actually burn the through hole. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to fix this right. We're going to hard code this trace on the top onto the bottom with these jumpers, and then we're going to throw it in the machine, and we're going to see this thing work. Finally, it's going to work the way it was supposed to. So again, these games get to a certain age, you have to replace these capacitors. But when you do, you should also add these jumpers, because you just can't count on the solder going all the way through properly. So, important trick. For more, visit PinballHelp.com. Thanks for watching, and keep watching, because I'm going to throw this in the game and we're going to get it working.